Hi, everyone, and thanks for being here. I'm Esther de las Casas, Communications Lead at Mentabacus, and I'm genuinely happy to share some news today. The European Patent Office has just decided to grant Dan's patent. It's a big moment for Mentabacus, and honestly, it still feels a bit surreal. We're not sure we've fully realized it yet. It didn't happen because everything was perfectly planned. It happened because we started, early, curious, and imperfect. That's really what we've always meant by walking the talk, getting your feet wet before you know exactly where the path leads. That same spirit has been there from the very beginning, back when Dan first sketched the Red Rubber Duck book in 2002 and started writing it in 2003. It was a long journey, years of refining, testing, and learning, until the book was finally published in early 2008. When the book was finally published, Dan took a step back to understand what had made it possible, how the project had stayed alive through job changes, relocations, and even 2 moves across continents. Looking back, he realized there were 5 key factors that had quietly held everything together. He called them the ingredients of success. Those 5 principles became more than just a reflection on that one project. They turned into the underlying rhythm that has guided everything since, shaping how Mentabacus approaches building, teaching, and learning to this day. So, in the next season of The Bigger Picture, we'll revisit those 5 principles, the ingredients of success, and see how they've carried through from the first sketches of Red Rubber Duck to where Mentabacus stands now. Here we take a first, closer look at what they mean to us, and specifically to Dan today. First, dream. Everything begins in the imagination, not as a luxury, but as the starting point of every real journey. It's easy to forget that dreaming is essential, especially in a world obsessed with results and metrics. Dreaming means giving yourself permission to explore what doesn't yet exist, to paint the outline before you have the details. When Dan first imagined Mentabacus, it wasn't about software or patents. It was a vision of learning that felt more human, visual, spatial, even playful. That vision became the compass for everything that followed. In a way, that's also what our Aim High, Young Astronauts episode was about. Not perfection, but liftoff. Taking that first step, even when gravity still feels stronger than vision. Second, be the CEO of your own life. This one always makes me smile. It sounds bold, but it's really about humility. No one else can run the company of your decisions. Being the CEO of your life doesn't mean controlling everything. It means taking ownership of your direction. For Dan, it meant not waiting for someone to say the idea was valid. It meant saying, "This is my project. I'll take responsibility," describing how I understand learning, not claiming final answers, but contributing to the conversation. And that mindset, ownership with curiosity, is exactly what Mentabacus tries to inspire in learners. Third, find a guide. None of us really grow in isolation. A good guide doesn't give you the answers. They help you find the right questions. They remind you why you started when you hit the wall, and they tell you the truth when it matters most. At Mentabacus, mentoring is still at the heart of everything we do. Learning works best when it's shared, reflected upon, and grounded in trust. Fourth, use state-of-the-art techniques. This isn't about chasing trends. It's about staying open, constantly learning how to learn. The tools we use shape the way we think. A good method amplifies effort. A bad one drains it. That's why Mentabacus exists, to make complex knowledge visible and navigable. It's not just a tool, it's a mindset. Learning as a form of architecture. And finally, walk the talk. Everything else depends on this one. You can dream, plan, and analyze, but nothing becomes real until you move. The first action is never perfect, but it's always necessary. For Dan, that first step was writing Red Rubber Duck, not knowing if it would make sense to anyone else. Years later, it became about operationalizing the learning and studying tools outlined in the book, turning them into a practical learning system. Every step taught something that theory never could. That's what walking the talk really means, moving while you're still figuring it out. The first episode of our new Bigger Picture mini-season starts in November. We can't wait to share how these 5 principles, from a little red rubber duck to a structured learning system, connect across time and practice. Until then, stay curious, keep exploring, and of course, keep walking the talk. Thank you for joining me in this episode of The Bigger Picture. And who knows, maybe next time Dan will join us in person. And remember, as Dan always says, learning isn't a trend. Structure still works. Square, not hip.
Every story needs structure. Every mind needs a map. Mentabacus. Square, not hip. Visit us at mentabacus.com.